Well, my next guest says that Beijing actually did investors a favor by reining in the Ant Financial IPO. He is Brian Tycangco of True Wealth Opportunities China, and he joins us now. Brian, thanks for coming in.
Hi, Jessica.
So, Brian, we're speaking on the day that we were supposed to be talking about how huge the world's largest IPO was going to be. Ant Financial was due to list today, but earlier this week, Beijing regulators decided against allowing that to go forward, citing some concerns with the paperwork and the filings. But at the same time, we've heard a lot of speculation around the true reasons. Maybe there was a problem between Jack Ma and Beijing regulators or Beijing's Communist Party. What do you think motivated this move?
I think what Beijing wants is for Ant Group and all the fintechs to start realizing that, hey, you got to have skin in the game. You got to start putting up money, real money, if you're going to do this business and get 1/3 of the income from lending out to consumers. And I think that's a new reality that wasn't reflected in the prospectus of Ant Group, which is why this could have been a potential black swan event, I would think, for a $500 billion company when it lists and jumps at the open, to have suddenly have to face new regulations that has a material impact on its business. So that's why I think that China actually did investors a favor. So what happened now, the negative, that's the negative. You have some negative perception on China, on Ant Group, but I think they're going to come out of this at the other end in good shape. The upshot to that was you have now more than $1 trillion that was tied up into this IPO now flowing back into the market. So this is why you're seeing stocks like JD.com, NetEase, they're all up massively since the news of the Ant IPO suspension.
Yeah, you're talking about sort of the second wave of impact that comes from the money coming back out of the IPO, but there's obviously investors that have consequences, right? That the retail investors that put a lot of money, maybe borrowed to put money into this IPO because it was so touted as the next big thing. I mean, $35 billion, it was going to be the world's largest IPO. What happens to those investors now?
What I know is that they're going to be refunded everything without interest. I think the interest won't be charged and the money will be returned. I think they're already starting to return the money tomorrow, which is Friday here in Asia. So the money will be returned. And it's, one other reason I think what really helped pull the trigger for Beijing was the amount of speculation that has been going around the Ant IPO. I mean, CNBC interviewed one guy. This guy's a 35-year-old software developer, and he borrowed upwards of $600,000 just to invest in Ant IPO. That's crazy. I mean, you're just asking for a big hurting right there. So I think that, coupled with the fact that there are new regulations that Beijing wants for the fintechs to start sharing in the burden of increased consumer loans that they were able to provide.
So that's interesting about the retail investor in particular, because it kind of reminds me of the Robin Hood effect here in the United States. What do you think will be different the next time that Ant goes to list its IPO? Will there be more control over the messaging so that there is less speculation in addition to the changes that the Chinese government is asking the company to make?
I think it boils down to regulatory uncertainty right now. So what you want is regulatory certainty, at least a fair degree of certainty. So right now, people really are saying, okay, so what field are we playing on? And how much more capital does Ant need to put up to be able to continue its business as it is? And will it be able to put it up? And I don't think that there's any doubt that they're going to be able to put up the money that would be required. It's just that what is that figure, right? I just heard news from today that Tencent, which has WeChat Pay and WeChat credit system as well, kind of like what Ant Group does, they up their capital. So it seems like they're already preparing for this increase in requirements for capital for all these fintech companies. And once that's through the door and more visibility and more certainty is given on the regulatory front, then I think you'll see a relaunch of that IPO.
Which brings me to a broader question about risk. If you're saying that Beijing is making a stronger attempt to manage the risk of an IPO of this size, and more broadly, fintech regulation that could really come back to bite them, what is your take on the current risk environment for Chinese equities, given what we have just learned about the changes in regulation and how quickly and abruptly they can happen?
Right now, I think this is actually a sort of like a one-off. I mean, it's really such a big IPO, and that a lot has been riding on this, and there's a lot of potential risks because of the landscape. Like I said, I think it could have been a potential black swan had they not stepped in. And if it was like a $10 billion company when it listed and it went kaput, I mean, they could manage that. But a $500 billion company suddenly rusts into regulatory uncertainty is going to create a lot of hurt, not just in the financial system, but also destroy confidence in the stock market, which is what Xi Jinping has been working so hard on these past few years building. You have the star market, which is his baby, is his project, the star market, where Ant was supposed to list. I mean, imagine having to forego $500 billion of market cap, something that would have nearly increased the total market cap of the star market by 40% or so overnight. But saying, no, let's not go through with this because the risk is just too big right now.
So maybe this is the upside of having the Chinese president personally invested in a regulatory environment that makes the country look good and safe to invest in.
Perhaps, yeah.
Point.
Yeah.
Lastly, any idea in your mind when we'll see this IPO come back around?
The word is at least 6 months, but it could take up to a year. But in the grand scheme of things,
this is a significant delay. This is not just a couple months. This is okay.
Yeah, nobody's throwing out any date that's earlier than 6 months.
All right, Brian Tycangco there from True Wealth Opportunities China. Thanks so much for coming in and joining us. We appreciate your insights. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Thanks for watching. I'm Jessica Stone.